Let me show you something that changed how I think about money forever. In 1994, a 23-year-old intern at a Wall Street hedge fund watched his senior partners obsess over every single data point, every Fed whisper, every earnings surprise, every overnight futures move. He studied them, he copied them, and within 3 years, he was broke. Not the partners, him. Because what he thought was expertise was actually noise addiction. Now fast forward to 2026. Right now, 97% of individual investors are doing the exact same thing that intern did, glued to their screens, watching 15-second market updates, making decisions based on what happened yesterday. And the wealth gap isn't widening because the rich know better stocks. It's widening because they're playing a completely different game, one that most people don't even know exists. Today, I'm going to show you that game, not the one the financial media sells you, the real one, the structural one, the one that doesn't require you to predict the future. It requires you to design it. This is the 10-year moat. Before we get into the blueprint, I need to say something directly to you because it defines why this channel exists. WealthForge was never built to give you tips. It wasn't built to tell you which stock to buy this week or which crypto is about to explode. There are 10,000 channels for that. And if you've watched any of them for more than 6 months, you already know how that story ends. WealthForge exists for one reason, to give you the structural blueprint for a specific financial future that belongs to you, not to a broker, not to a trend, not to a market cycle. Because here at WealthForge, we operate by a single creed. We don't follow the market, we design the moat. In a world of followers, we are the architects of our own freedom. That word, architect, matters. An architect doesn't wait to see where the wind blows before deciding where to put the walls. An architect draws the blueprint first, then builds toward it, deliberately, structurally, permanently. If that's the kind of builder you want to be, stay with me, because what I'm about to lay out across the next 20 minutes could be the framework that redefines how your family relates to money for the next 3 generations. Let's build. Here's the reality of 2026 that nobody in mainstream finance wants to admit out loud. The market feels more dangerous than ever. Volatility is spiking. Geopolitical noise is constant. AI disruption is reshuffling entire industries in 18-month cycles. And the average investor, scrolling through financial Twitter at midnight, genuinely believes that if they just had better information, they'd finally win. But here's what the data actually shows. A landmark study tracking investor returns over a 20-year period found that the average equity fund returned roughly 8.2% annually, but the average investor in those same funds returned just 4.7%, nearly half the available return, evaporated, not by market forces, by the investors themselves, by buying when fear turned to greed and selling when greed turned to fear. That gap, that 3.5% gap, is the cost of playing a finite game in an infinite arena. Here's what I mean by that. When you're focused on timing the market, on catching the rally, dodging the crash, being right about the next quarter, you're by definition playing a finite game. You're trying to score a point before the clock runs out, and every move you make is reactive. It is, by design, dependent on what everyone else is doing. And here's the cruel irony. The more people play that finite game, the more volatile and unpredictable the arena becomes, which creates even more urgency to react, which creates even more volatility. It's a self-reinforcing spiral that enriches market makers and exhausts everyone else. The 10-year moat is the exit from that spiral. A moat in structural wealth terms isn't just a defense mechanism, it's a time arbitrage advantage. When you operate with a 10-year structural vision, when your decisions are anchored to where you want to be in 2036, not in 2026, the daily noise that paralyzes most investors becomes completely irrelevant to your strategy. Think about it this way. If I told you that a specific asset class would be worth 40% more in 10 years than it is today, but it would drop 22% sometime in the next 3 years, would you panic sell when the drop comes?
If you're playing the finite game, yes, because the drop feels like losing. If you're playing the structural game, the drop is a buying opportunity because you know where the destination is, and a temporary dip is just cheaper fuel for the journey. That's the first shift, from reactive to architectural. But knowing the shift isn't enough. You need the actual machinery that makes it permanent, and that's exactly what we're going to build next, the three-part system that turns this philosophy into structural wealth you can't accidentally undo. What I'm about to show you in this section is something that 99% of financial content will never teach you, not because it's complicated, but because it requires thinking in decades, not days, and there's no advertising revenue in patience. Here's the first principle of structural wealth design. Stop trying to pick winners. Start building systems that capture the winner's circle automatically. What does that mean in practice? It means shifting your mental model from which company will outperform next year to which systems, investment vehicles, tax structures, asset classes will silently accumulate value for a decade while I focus on building the other pillars of my life. Broad market index vehicles with global diversification have outperformed 92% of actively managed funds over any rolling 15-year period, not because index funds are magic, but because they eliminate the single biggest destroyer of long-term wealth, the human impulse to intervene. This is what I call automated capture. You design the system runs, you don't touch it. But here's where most people get this half right and still fail. They build the investment system, but they don't build the container around it, and the container is everything. I'm talking about tax-sheltered structures, retirement accounts, HSAs, tax-efficient fund placement strategies that function as what I call financial lockboxes. Their entire purpose is not to maximize returns. Their purpose is to prevent you from undoing your own progress during the inevitable moments when a market drops 30% and your lizard brain screams at you to get out. Friction is a feature, not a bug. When it's harder to liquidate an account, you're statistically far less likely to do it at the worst possible moment. The lockbox doesn't just protect your capital from the market, it protects your capital from you. Now, the third component of structural irreversibility is the hardest one to get right, and it's this. You have to select assets based on their 2036 utility, not their 2026 social media narrative. I want you to sit with that for a second. Right now, some asset somewhere is trending because a famous podcast host mentioned it, or because a Reddit thread went viral, or because an AI company made an announcement.
And the herd is moving toward it with enormous conviction and enormous speed. And in 6 months, that same asset will be a cautionary tale. The architect's question is never what's hot right now. The architect's question is, what problem will this still be solving in 2036? That's the filter. That's the lens. Infrastructure that serves aging demographics, energy systems that power a digitized global economy, businesses with pricing power that compounds through inflation cycles. These aren't exciting, they're structural. And structural is exactly what you want when you're building something meant to outlast you. We now have the system in the container, but there's a cognitive filter, one that almost no financial content ever discusses, that separates the architects who build generational wealth from those who build it halfway and then watch it erode. I'm going to give it to you right now. Before I hand you this filter, I want to say something, because when most people hear this principle for the first time, their first instinct is to dismiss it. And that one moment of, that sounds too simple, that dismissal is exactly why most people never build permanent wealth. So I want you to hear this with a genuinely open mind. The concept is called the Lindy Effect, originally observed in the world of books and performance. It states this: the longer something is already survived, the longer it is likely to continue surviving. Not because of nostalgia, but because longevity itself is evidence of structural resilience. A technology or a business model that has existed for 50 years has already demonstrated an ability to survive wars, recessions, paradigm shifts, and generational changes in consumer behavior. Each decade it survives makes the next decade more likely, not less. Now apply that to wealth vehicles.
When you ask what is demonstrated pricing power through every economic cycle of the last century, you get a very short, very unsexy list, and almost none of it is on this week's trending list. Real assets with productive capacity, businesses with irreplaceable competitive positions, income-generating property in locations where human beings have to live. These are Lindy-compatible wealth vehicles. They gain resilience as they age. Compare that to the speculative assets dominating financial headlines right now. Almost by definition, something that became famous 3 years ago lacks those credentials. It hasn't survived a major cycle yet. It might, but the structural investor doesn't bet on might. They build on demonstrated. Here's the second critical insight in this section. Most people who engage with financial content are still fundamentally consumers of trends. They watch, they read, they follow, they react. But structural wealth is not built by consuming trends. It's built by owning the infrastructure that delivers them. Think about every consumer technology wave of the last 30 years. The companies that used the internet to sell things rose and fell with enormous volatility. The companies that owned the pipes, the cloud infrastructure, the semiconductor supply chains, the logistics networks, compounded steadily and made multi-generational fortunes. The architect doesn't ask, which trend should I ride? The architect asks, what does every participant in every trend have to use regardless of which trend wins? Own that, systematically, for a decade, and watch what happens. If this is landing for you, save this video right now. The next 2 sections cover the parts of this blueprint that most people never think about until it's too late. You'll want to come back to them. I need to talk about something that most financial content refuses to address directly because it's uncomfortable and it doesn't sell courses. The single biggest threat to your 10-year moat is not a market crash, it's not a geopolitical event, it's not even inflation. It's you. Specifically, it's the invisible gradual expansion of your lifestyle that quietly absorbs every raise, every bonus, every investment gain before it can compound. Lifestyle creep. It is the #1 silent destroyer of generational wealth, and it operates almost entirely below the level of conscious decision-making. Here's how it works. Income goes up, spending adjusts to match the new income, usually within 90 days. The gap between what you earn and what you could have invested evaporates. And the worst part, it doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like a reward. It feels like you finally arrived. But arriving is a finite game move. Architects don't arrive. Architects build. So what's the structural solution? First, a dynamic spending framework. This isn't a budget in the traditional sense. It's a rule set. For every 10% increase in income, a predetermined percentage, I recommend at least 50% of the increase, goes directly and automatically to the structural investment system before you ever see it in your spending account. The remainder can scale your lifestyle. This way, rising income simultaneously expands your quality of life and accelerates your wealth architecture. You're not choosing between living and building. You're doing both by design. Second, the non-negotiable fortress principle. Identify your 3 core investment commitments, your monthly automated contributions to your primary wealth vehicles, and treat them with the same inviolable status as your mortgage payment. These are not adjustable line items. These are structural obligations to your future self. Every time you protect the fortress, every time life throws a curveball and you find another way rather than raiding the principle, you reinforce the identity of an architect. You are not someone who reacts. You are someone who builds through. That identity shift over 10 years becomes one of your most powerful assets. Tell me in the comments, which of these 4 sections has hit you hardest so far? The finite game, the locks box, the Lindy filter, or the lifestyle defense? I read every single comment. I genuinely want to know where you are in this blueprint. Because what comes next, the 5th and final layer, is the one that most wealth builders miss entirely. They build the moat, they protect the moat, but they never design for what happens to the moat after they're gone. And that single oversight is what erases everything they built within 1 generation. Now we arrive at the dimension of this blueprint that separates a wealth builder from a legacy architect. There's a well-documented phenomenon sometimes called the 3rd generation curse. It goes like this. The 1st generation builds wealth through sacrifice and structural vision. The second generation inherits both the wealth and the context. They watched it being built. But the third generation inherits the wealth without the context. They receive the castle without understanding how the walls were laid. And statistically, the wealth is largely gone by the fourth generation. This isn't a moral failing of the third generation. It's a structural failure of the first, because the moat was built, but the knowledge of how to maintain it was never transmitted. So, if you're serious about the 10-year moat, if you're serious about wealth that outlasts your own lifetime, then the final layer of your architectural blueprint has nothing to do with stocks or real estate or tax structures.
It has to do with family governance, and I know how that sounds. It sounds like something for billionaires, family offices and trusts, and wealth councils. But I want to reframe that completely. Family governance at its core is simply the deliberate, structured transmission of financial philosophy from one generation to the next. It can be as simple as a monthly family conversation about money, an annual review of the investment system that includes your children, not to manage it, but to understand it, a written document, call it your family's financial constitution, that articulates the principles your wealth was built on and the obligations that come with inheriting it. The families that preserve multi-generational wealth don't just leave money, they leave frameworks. They leave the understanding that wealth is not a destination, it is a discipline. It is an ongoing act of design, maintenance, and intentional growth. And here is the most important thing I can tell you about this. The time to build this is now, while the wealth is still being built. Because the habits of governance, the culture of financial intentionality, the identity of being an architect, these don't emerge after you've accumulated. They are built alongside the accumulation. They are forged in the daily decisions and the monthly contributions and the conversations you have with your family when the market drops and everyone else is panicking, and you look at your blueprint and say, "We designed for this. We're fine." I want to close with the most practical thing I can say. Everything in this video and subscribe, the structural systems, the Lindy filter, the dynamic spending framework, the generational blueprint, none of it matters if it stays theoretical. The 10-year moat is not built in a moment of inspiration. It's built with a first move, a single concrete structural action taken today, before the excitement fades, before the market opens tomorrow and the noise begins again. Your first move might be opening the tax-sheltered account you've been putting off for 6 months. It might be automating your first monthly contribution, even if it's small. It might be sitting down with your family this weekend and having the first real conversation about what you're building and why. Whatever it is, it has to be structural, not reactive, not trend-driven, not motivated by fear or greed or a headline you saw this morning. Do it because you have a blueprint. Do it because you are an architect. And remember this, because I want it to stay with you long after this video ends. The world's greatest fortunes were not built by people who were smarter than the market. They were built by people who were longer than the market, who thought in decades while everyone else thought in days, who designed the foundation while the crowd was chasing the wave. You now have the framework. The question is simply, when does your decade begin? Here at WealthForge, we don't follow the market. We design the moat. In a world of followers, you are the architect of your own freedom. I'm Dr. Ben. I'll see you in the next blueprint.